Am I the butthole for calling my husband unreasonable for canceling the holiday trip just because me and the kids coupdn't help him in an emergency? My husband and I have been together for 4 years. I have 2 kids, 17 meters/19F. And their half-brother is 3 years old. This past week, my husband had an emergency, Dad had a medical emergency, and wanted someone to watch our son. He asked my older son and he refused because he was going out with friends. He also asked my daughter, but she locked herself in her room to study. I was at the restaurant with my brother meeting his girlfriend for the first time. My husband ended up taking our son with him to the hospital and his mom watched him from there. He came home and was lashing out on everybody, calling us selfish and unfeeling. I tried to explain that the kids were busy, but he told me to get the F out with that bull because my older son could have skipped the hangout and watched his brother, and my daughter could have watched her brother while studying instead of locking herself in her room. He scolded me as well, but I told him I couldn't leave lunch with my brother since he was visiting town and this was my only chance to meet his girlfriend. He yelled some more, then told us that he was canceling the family holiday trip for Christmas this year. The 2 older kids were upset and said it was unfair. I called him unreasonable to cancel the trip and punish the kids, and possibly me, like that. He refused to discuss it later. Now me and the kids aren't speaking to him and he's saying good riddance. Edit: my husband was supposed to watch our son at the time. That's why I went to see my brother at the restaurant. The kids aren't used to watching their brother when neither parent is home. Update: my husband just told us that he'll be spending Christmas with his family, saying he needs to be around his dad anyway. The kids said they will just go to their dad since they and my husband are still not talking. Neither of the kids are happy with how things turned out. So I feel like things have gotten out of hand and the problem got bigger. He's now choosing to basically abandon us on Christmas and also keep our son away from me and his siblings. You're the butthole. Let's fix the title of your post. My husband canceled our holiday trip because my kids and I are unreasonable and he just found out that we couldn't care less about him or his family. Edit: thank you kind award givers. ETA more, seriously, OP stop adding edits. You are so far away from being helpful to anyone, including yourself in this situation. Just stop. It appears you and your older kids will be getting consequences this year for Christmas. You're the butthole. Medical emergency hanging out. Medical emergency studying. Medical emergency lunchy munchies. You're the butthole. When there's a family emergency, you drop everything to help. Meeting your brother's girlfriend for the first time is not a valid excuse not to go watch the WTF? Clearly you put your husband very low on your list of priorities. I don't blame him for canceling, you guys don't deserve it. Am I the butthole for interrupting my brother-in-law's time with his girlfriend to ask him to buy me chocolate cake? My biggest pregnancy craving right now is chocolate cake. We didn't have any left and my husband was on an important call, so I asked my brother-in-law if he could get it for me, as my husband doesn't think I should be driving or going out late at night alone right now. He was spending time with his girlfriend when I asked, so after he left she was annoyed at me for interrupting them. She said I was rude and I should have got the cake myself or asked somebody else since they were busy and my brother-in-law wasn't my errand boy. I explained why I didn't go myself, but she said I was just making excuses. Am I the butthole? Well, you have to admit, you were pretty rude to interrupt someone's date because you wanted cake. I believe you can download apps that deliver food instead of inconveniencing other people. You're the butthole. You could have waited. Uda. And yes, I've been pregnant before. Uda. Just because you are pregnant doesn't mean people are obligated to get you chocolate cake. Also, why does your husband's important call trump your bro-in-law's time? Wait for cake. Am I the butthole for threatening to kick my dad out of my wedding because he kept apologizing to his fiancee whose birthday it was? My dad has been with Marissa for about 2 years and they just got engaged. I don't have much of a relationship with her as she isn't a pleasant person. I don't know Marissa's birthday and don't see why I would be expected to, but my wedding ended up falling on her birthday. When my dad found out the date, I could tell he was stressed. He said she has a lot of trauma and he feels so guilty spending her birthday at my wedding. I didn't say much and figured they could work it out. Well, the wedding was last weekend. I'm not sure if Marissa was upset or not. She is very stoic, so I don't know, but my dad kept apologizing. When they first arrived and he came to see me in the bridal room, he brought her for some reason, and as they walked in I could hear him saying sorry and asking if she was okay. Right before the ceremony he had her on his lap and was whispering, but I could hear it. He was saying he wished she would open her birthday presents and she was like, I just don't want to do it today. Then he said what if she opens them and he buys new ones for the day they celebrate. Then my grandma came over and tried to give her a gift and he was just so annoying about it. Final straw was during the reception. Marissa was complaining to my grandma how she hates chocolate cake, only cake we had, and my dad took her in his arms and was asking if she wanted to go out later and get something, and again apologized. I finally snapped and yelled at him, if my wedding was such a burden, take the child he is dating and get the frick out. I meant because of her actions. There isn't a big age gap. He looked horrified and I was like, well, go. My grandma immediately began to berate me that I am awful and he paid for the wedding. He asked if I really wanted him to go, and I told him to either shut the frick up about her birthday or go. He stayed but was cold the rest of the night, and I heard Marissa and my grandma joking about how he should rip up the check he gave me for how I spoke to him. I don't know if I overreacted, as he was just having empathy for his fiancée. Not the butthole. I think those giving you the butthole comments need to look at the fact that OP could hear her apologizing every time. Correct me if I am wrong, but you do not bring your family problems into public, especially during a wedding. What grown, mature adult gets this bent out of shape over a birthday? Not the butthole. Am I the butthole for not leaving my mother-in-law anything to eat after she said she wasn't hungry? We usually do intermittent fasting, meaning we don't eat after 5 p.m., but when I'm on my period, my appetite gets several times bigger. Last night I craved for a chicken sandwich with chili, and I asked my mother-in-law whether she wanted any. She said no, she wasn't hungry, and since my husband doesn't eat at that time, I only made one. I quickly gobbled it up, and when my mother-in-law came into the kitchen again, the plate was already wiped clean. She asked me in shock, "You're done that fast?" I was pretty embarrassed and told her it's my favorite. Then she said, "And you didn't think to at least offer people staying in the house with you a bite?" I was confused and told her, "But you said you weren't hungry, and Jake, my husband, doesn't eat at this hour." She said, "You didn't think to store some in the fridge in case I do get hungry?" I told her, "I'm sorry, I really didn't think that far ahead. I'll make a new one." But then I remembered that we were all out of chili and sheepishly told her I'ma go buy some. She told me not to bother, but I insisted. But even after looking at several convenience stores, I couldn't find the brand I was looking for, and since it was nearly midnight by then, I didn't have many options. I called Jake and asked him what I should do, and he told me to just get one from a snack near us. When I got home though and brought it to my mother-in-law, she refused to eat it and said, "I told you to forget it, I don't eat takeout." She insisted she didn't want it, nor did she want anything else, as she wasn't hungry, that she had just smelled the chili earlier and wanted a bite. I told her, "Okay, if you need anything let me know." I went back to the kitchen and ate that sandwich too. The next day, Jake and I wake up to find mother-in-law gone, with a text sent to my husband that says she won't be putting her foot in our house ever again for the amount of disrespect I showed her. Apparently she did get hungry later and went looking for the sandwich and couldn't find it. Jake was livid that I ate that one too and told me this is my fault and I should go with him to apologize to her. I got angry too and told him why couldn't she have just asked directly instead of going around all these circles in the first place? He ignored me and grabbed his jacket and keys and left. Am I really in the wrong here? Not the butthole. If someone tells you they don't want any, they don't get any. Words mean things. Not the butthole, but I'm so proud of you for accidentally outing this woman's manipulative behavior. Chaotic good. I just picture everyone in this house sneaking back into the kitchen to eat random food and the next person being so GD sad that it's gone. To be clear, you went way above and beyond by trying to replicate the chicken chili sandwich the first time. That was far more than required by standards of kindness. You asked and she declined. Twice. Girl, she's setting you up at that point, but you literally ate right through her plan. I love it. Am I the butthole? I called my daughter insane for her expecting her kids, 8 and 5, to buy her a birthday present? My daughter just turned 40. She was not married but had a boyfriend, and the relationship resulted in 2 children, a daughter now 8 and a son who is 5. Her boyfriend left because of her hot-headed behavior, what he claims. He does not visit or contact the children. I called her to wish her a happy birthday. She sounded aggravated on the phone. When I asked why, she began yelling how thoughtless her children were. She told me they hadn't bought her a gift or wished her a happy birthday because they didn't know. I told her at that age they don't remember dates, and what did she expect, for them to hitchhike to the store and panhandle until they got enough money for a gift? She started screaming her daughter should know dates like this by now and they're just so lazy. I said to my daughter she was being absolutely insane and they were only kids. The call ended with her now yelling at me and hanging up. I later discussed it with my husband, daughter's stepfather, who defended her, saying she was a single mom who felt alone today, who we needed to cut her some slack. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Your daughter seems like she needs help. Did she get upset with the kids, or was she just venting to you and you were unsympathetic? Am I the butthole for naming my daughter a difficult name? I was adopted from Korea when I was a toddler. Both my adoptive parents are white and they never tried to connect me with my culture while I was growing up. They raised me to believe I was white like my siblings, and it wasn't until I entered middle school that I realized I was definitely not white. In college I met my now husband, who is also Korean. He's not adopted like me, but his parents did move to the US from Korea when he was around 10. With that being said, we recently had our first child and we gave her a Korean name. No, we did not give her an English name as well, since the name really isn't that hard to pronounce and I wanted her to have a name that was from her culture. We did a little family get together with my family yesterday so they could meet her, but my mom kept bringing up how hard her name is to pronounce. I explained to her many times how to say it and yet she still kept getting it wrong, which felt on purpose. After the millionth time of me correcting my mom about her name, she yelled at me and said I shouldn't have given her a difficult name and I was setting her up for failure and years of bullying. They left shortly after that, but I've been thinking about it since then. I don't think foreign names should be considered difficult, and they certainly shouldn't if it's your family. I know kids can be mean and bullying is common when it comes to names, but I would hate to raise my child to think she needs to change herself to make others feel comfortable. I don't want my child to be bullied or to set her up for failure, but I'm also scared of her growing up the same way I did. Not the butthole. I'm very sorry, but clearly your parents, or at least your mom, are uncomfortable with your Korean identify. That's why they didn't teach you about your culture growing up. But if your kid has a traditional Korean name, then your family's identity, your differentness, can't be so easily glossed over. And that makes mom uncomfortable. Stand your ground. You have the right to give your child a name that is meaningful to you and your partner. P.S. My name is mispronounced constantly, but I still wouldn't change it. My name is who I am. It reflects me. The people who matter will remember how to pronounce it correctly. Not the butthole. If they can learn to say Tchaikovsky and Michelangelo and Dostoevsky, they can learn to say Uzo Amaka. Actress's mother told her this, and I always think of it when I hear stuff like this. Your parents are racist, unfortunately. With the way they refuse to try, deem anything else as difficult and literally whitewashing you. Not the butthole, but look at what you're saying. Your daughter doesn't have a foreign name. Your daughter is an American, and that means she has an American name. English is not the official language of the United States. The founders specifically chose that the U.S. would have no official language. Never let anyone try to tell you or your daughter that they're more American than you are. Not even the people you love, like your own mother. She's your mom, and you love her, so maybe just remind her of this truth with love as best you can, calmly and directly, every time she does this, and she'll come around. Welcome to dealing with grandparents. They're largely trainable. Edit, it seems I wasn't clear, the name is also 100% a Korean name, and that first. I didn't talk about the fact that it was an expression of OP South Korean heritage because I was responding only to her mom calling the name not an American name. I guess I could have said that there is no such thing as an American name, though reading I see that people may not always define it that way themselves. OP and her child deserve to have their cultural identity respected and seen as compatible with normal America. Especially by her own mom. Not the butthole. People learn to pronounce all sorts of names in all sorts of languages. She can learn. She's choosing not to. And given that they tried to erase your culture from your life, I'm not sure she's going to stop. Which makes her an not you. You haven't set your kid up for anything. Am I the butthole for refusing to invite my dad's sugar baby to my wedding? I'm female, 23. My parents split up when I was 4 because my mom was having an affair with my dad's brother. After that went down, my dad went back to college and got another degree, and is now working a very good job that he got through a friend and is very wealthy. My relationship with my parents was very strained as my mom didn't let me see my dad until I was a teenager because she wanted to avoid talking to him. In recent months, my dad has started having a girlfriend who we'll call Sarah, female, 24. Sarah is obviously a sugar baby. She doesn't have a job and my dad pays for everything, and Sarah is always bragging about the expensive stuff that my dad buys her. All of her friends live a similar lifestyle. I have them as friends on social media. The fact that my dad is dating a woman who's a year older than me makes me cringe to the core. I'm getting married to my partner, male, 24, next summer, and I've decided that I don't want Sarah at my wedding. She's not his girlfriend or partner, she's his sugar baby. My dad obviously didn't take it well and said that Sarah is just as part of the family as my mom's new husband, and said that I don't get to decide which relationships are acceptable and which aren't. He said I'm being self-righteous and continued to deny that Sarah is a sugar baby, and accused me of trying to manipulate him. He said I have my mom to thank for the fact that they aren't together anymore. My future Mill and Phil even got involved and said that if Sarah comes to the wedding they won't be going as they think my dad's relationship is disgusting. Edit, no, my dad is not contributing financially to the wedding and I'm not financially dependent on him. My relationships with both of my parents are not great because of previous actions. My uncle is not invited to my wedding and after the affair he was estranged from the family. My dad met Sarah on a sugar baby website but said that their relationship changed and that she's his girlfriend. She's definitely a sugar baby or gold digger or whatever you want to call it, but it's definitely not an innocent romantic relationship. Not the butthole. It's your wedding. Invite who you want to, but be prepared for the consequences and fallout that result from your decisions. Said that Sarah is just as part of the family. Nope. She can be a part of his family, just like my loved ones are part of my family, but not a part of yours. Not the butthole OP, no need to invite, but be ready for years of sugar drama if you want to remain close with your dad. Your father can deny it until he's blue in the face, but the age gap makes it painfully, glaringly obvious. If that wasn't obvious enough, the fact that she doesn't have a job, and is going all influencer style to brag about what she got from your father, makes it eye-catchingly obvious. She is a sugar baby. In addition, your future husband's parents can see that Sarah is obviously trouble, and they're so repulsed by her that they don't even want to be in any sort of proximity to her, even if it's separated by a crowd at the wedding. They seem to be decent folks with a very active and functional moral compass. Therefore, you are not the butthole. Clearly, definitely, absolutely. It's your wedding, and you can decide who is to be invited, and who should not be. I also have an alarm bell ringing in my head that Sarah wants to use your wedding as another show-off opportunity, a chance to take selfies and go full influencer mode with her expensive baubles. Not the butthole all the way for you. Your father's not yet fully the butthole, but he's descending that slippery slope. Your soon-to-be Mill and Phil are also both not the butthole, they seem to be really decent folks. Am I the butthole for separating my dad and his GF, and her son, during Christmas? My 15 female parents have been divorced for 10 years now, but remained amicable until my mom passed away 8 months ago. I used to always spend Christmas Eve and Christmas Day with my mom, just because it meant more to her and her family than it did my dad. He and his family aren't really big Christmas lovers, but New Year's? That's their deal, they never had a problem. My dad begun to date his now GF 3 years ago. She has a 4-year-old son from a previous relationship, and to be completely fair, the three of us aren't really close. I like her son and I like to play with him when we're in the house at the same time, but she and I aren't really friends, and sometimes I feel she ignores me. This year my dad asked what I wanted to do for Christmas. He offered to drive me to my grandparents and pick me up any day, but it's still lonely after my mom's passing, so I asked if we could celebrate it just me and him. Nothing big, and I promised I won't ever ask again. We also didn't have to make a big dinner, and I'll do it with pizza or something, but I wasn't really looking forward to spend the day with anyone else but him. The thing is, my mom and I had a whole ritual that day. We usually woke up at 8 a.m., put music, any music, and cooked, baked and wrapped all day while talking and having fun. My dad dropped my present at 3 p.m. every year, and every year my mom gave him a small container full with desserts. He asked if we could invite his GF and her son, and I, being completely honest, said I'd rather not, but that if he insisted and made him happy, then okay. He ended up agreeing to be just me and him this year, and some family, including his GF, are not happy, since my dad spent the last 2 years with his GF and her son and people feel like I made him choose. I separated them, and I'm not thinking about her kid like at all. Some cousins called me an and I'm wondering, because if I am, I might cancel plans with my dad and just go to my mom's family. Your freaking mom died and you're 15. Dad's girlfriend can suck it up and let you have a day with him. God, I'm so sorry you have to go through this. Your dad sounds like a good guy. Hopefully he'll do what's right for you. Hang in there. Losing a mom is the worst. I think you're still grieving for your mother, and at your age, it's not unreasonable to want a day alone with your remaining parent. I think asking for just one Christmas day under the circumstances isn't unreasonable. Gonna go with a not the butthole. Sorry for your loss, OP. Not the butthole. This is your first Christmas without your mom. It's not a regular Christmas. You're not the butthole for asking for what you want/need in this situation. Your dad should maybe step up and talk to the people who are saying things to you about it. It's none of their business. Am I the butthole not letting my parents babysit anymore? My wife and I have 2 daughters, Julia, 5, and Alina, 17 months. I've always been close to my family, and my parents are really involved with my daughters. They've regularly babysat Julia since she was around 1, and then Alina too. Currently it's 2 or 3 times a week. I know that sounds like a lot, but it always seemed to be their choice. We were always able to afford normal childcare. Originally, that was the plan when my leave was finished. However, my parents thought it was a waste since mom could watch them and they could spend time with their grandchild instead. The whole system happened because they asked for it. We do thank them, and appreciate it. Our girls are really close with them. However, around 3 weeks ago I went over and overheard my parents complaining to my sister about it. Apparently we're being selfish and basically just pawning off our children. Basically abandoning our responsibility. I was pretty upset and we ended up arguing about it. They ended up saying that we're essentially crap parents who refuse to do our job. That we shouldn't just leave our children to them. But we literally only did that because they wanted to be there for the kids. We didn't bring it up or force it, and whenever they couldn't we found backup options. Since then we haven't left Julia or Alina with my parents. I have no interest in it after finding out how two-faced they were about it all. We've got a temporary alternative and are looking into more permanent options. Last week Mom asked when we were going to have the kids over and I basically told her we weren't. I don't want to abandon my duty and feel uncomfortable having my children around someone who thinks so little of my wife and I. I mean, I definitely don't want our girls to start thinking we don't care. My parents are mad and think I'm being entitled and unreasonable, but I think it's a reasonable boundary. My sister has jumped in claiming I'm a horrible son and taking advantage of them, but they clearly didn't think I should give my responsibility away to them, so I'm not. My wife is conflicted and I know Julia was really close to them, so a part of me is worried my reaction is unreasonable and butthole. Why? Am I the butthole here? Not the butthole, it's your choice since they are your kids, and if your parents think you're abandoning your responsibility as a parent, they shouldn't be mad that you rather stay with your kids than giving them to your parents. Not the butthole. Your mom was talking crap behind your back to your sister, then blamed you when she got caught, then doubled down and accused you and your wife of bad parenting. If you could walk up and hear it, so can your kids. Stay strong. You are not wrong, she is. Not the butthole. Does mom know you heard her talking trash? Maybe let her know how disappointed you are in her behavior. She needs to get a clue and apologize for what she said. She can't claim to want to watch those kids and then also claim to be a martyr for doing exactly that. Not the butthole. If they had issues they should have come to you first instead of complaining to someone else. You are now doing what they said, taking responsibility and not leaving the kids with them. Get good childcare, and just let your parents be grandparents. Don't hold a grudge or withhold your children from them even though they hurt you. Am I the butthole for crying after finding out my mom is having another daughter? I, 15 female, have parents who had me very young. Both my mom and dad are 30 now. When my parents graduated high school my dad got his real estate license but my mom decided to go to college. So I lived with my dad during that time because I couldn't go with her. Where my mom went to school was only a 45-minute drive, so she would visit me on weekends. I remember how much fun it was getting time to spend with my mom on weekends and wishing she was around more often. My parents broke up not too long before my mom went to college, but my mom ended up meeting H, 31 male, and they started dating. My mom was going to come back home after she finished college. But she ended up moving 3.5 hours away with H. My dad ended up taking her to court for custody. She now pays child support and is supposed to have every other weekend with me. Which went on for a couple years, but then H and her got married and had a little girl together. So she stopped coming around or inviting me over to her house because she was too busy. Well, yesterday she came down to her parents' house and told me to come over because she has a surprise. I went over this morning and she showed me an ultrasound. She's pregnant with another girl. I lost it and started crying because I've always felt replaced since my half-sister was born. She gets the life I never had with my mom. She asked if I was happy. I said not really, you replaced me once already, now it's happening again. She tried saying she isn't replacing me. I just said, well, I feel replaced, you never see me. I got texts from both my grandparents and H calling me a brat and selfish, saying I'm too old to be acting jealous over a new baby. My dad agrees with me, so am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Your mom is a bad parent and she should feel bad. Tell H and your grandparents to mind their business like they did when your mom stopped coming around and inviting you over. I bet they were real quiet then. Tell them to keep up that same energy. Not the butthole. Your feelings are very valid. Your mother has shown through her actions that you haven't been a priority. I highly encourage you to find a therapist. These feelings of abandonment will not go away on their own and you deserve to live your best life. Not the butthole. Your feelings are your feelings. You are not being selfish. You just want time with mom. The fact that she got too busy for you after the first kid is telling where her priorities are. Your dad understands. Mom and grandparents are the butthole here. Sorry you have to go through this. Hope your mom wishes up eventually. Am I the butthole for telling my brother that no one cares about his breakup? I 19F have a sister 26 who has had fertility problems since a teenager. She was diagnosed with PCOS at 17, has had multiple uterine tumors with 2 of them being cancerous, so she has been through a lot regarding that aspect of her life. About 3 months ago, said sister and her husband told us the joyous news that they were pregnant and they were hopeful for this baby. My sister is currently 6, almost 7 months pregnant now. They waited a bit to tell us so that they could make sure this pregnancy didn't end like ones before it. I also have a brother 22. He was just broken up with by his girlfriend of a year about 2 days ago, and for the most part everyone has been very patient and understanding that he's going through a heartbreak. However, my sister was in the hospital for 5 days and finally got discharged yesterday. Her husband brought her by our house and my parents, my other brother, and myself flocked to her to see how she and the baby was. None of us were able to visit her in the hospital because she is a high-risk pregnancy and our county still has restrictions in place for their hospitals. So at this point everyone is hugging and checking on my sister when my aforementioned brother chimes in to say to my sister, we get it, you're freaking pregnant, you don't have to make things about you, no one cares, other people are going through crap too. Now just a side note here, My sister had no idea that my brother was broken up with, because she was in the hospital for 5 days. When she came into the house and asked my brother how he was and attempted to hug him, he ignored her. This understandably made my sister upset and she started to cry. Then my Bill and brother got into an argument. When my sis and Bill left, I asked my brother why he said to my sister, and he said because no one cares, to which I replied, you're such an ass. How about the fact that no one cares that you got broken up with? Hurts, doesn't it? He got pissed and stormed off, and I was scolded by my mom, essentially telling me that what I was said was osh. Edit: my brother caused his own breakup by cheating on his GF. Not the butthole. He can give it but can't take it. He shouldn't be a whiny brat if he couldn't handle getting told the same thing, about something much more insignificant that he's getting sympathy for nonetheless. I hope your sister finishes her pregnancy as stress-free as possible and has a healthy baby. Not the butthole. Your brother sounds spoiled rotten and your mom enables it. Your sister could have died and all he cares about is himself. Your brother is the butthole. You're a wonderful sister. Gee, can't imagine why someone would have dumped a charmer like your brother. I'm giving you not the butthole. I get that your brother is going through some stuff, but it's inappropriate for him to take it out on your sister, and it is appropriate to call him out on it. Am I the butthole for telling my SIL I will cancel Christmas over her mood swings? I have never gotten along with my SIL. I find her to be lazy, selfish, loud and demanding. The only good thing about her are my 3 nephews, ages 5 to 12. My brother and SIL are flat broke from their various business ventures and are really struggling. I've stepped up many times with financial assistance. For example, I'm the one who paid for my nephew's extracurricular activities. Recently, their financial situation got so bad that they can barely afford groceries. They were literally splitting peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That was unacceptable, and I offered to buy them weekly groceries. They accepted my help. I don't do online grocery shopping because most of the time they get the order wrong or don't have what I want. So I just go to the store. I get an email from my bro or SIL asking for stuff. I buy their groceries with mine and then drop their stuff off. It's not the money that annoys me, it's the extra work of bagging and going on the opposite direction of my house to drop off their stuff. Again, I do it for my nephews and it gives me a chance to see them. This week I did the grocery shopping on my lunch break and texted my SIL to come outside to get their stuff. My brother was out on interviews and my nephews were at school. She just said to leave the groceries on the doorstep. I said, I'm not Uber Eats. I'm doing you a favor by feeding your family, so give me the respect of at least coming to your door and acknowledging me. Show me some respect for the time, money and effort that I've put in. No, she wasn't in a situation to where she could not have taken a minute to do this. She was probably on social media. She came to the door and had a bad attitude. I told her that if my buying and dropping off groceries was too much work for her, then I won't do it anymore. Later my brother called to find out what happened and I told him. He said my SIL said I was volatile towards her and she didn't understand why. I told him that she knew, and now I'm not doing Christmas if she doesn't get on the phone to apologize to me. She did and blamed her hormones. I told her that I don't care about her hormones. I'm not going to let her disrespect me and let her think that she gets a pass by blaming her hormones. So, yes, I'll cancel Christmas if she's going to be rude to me. I'd hate for that to happen, but that's on my brother and SIL to burden. And it's not her hormones. She's always had this nasty attitude. It's not new. Edit: if she had a good reason as to why she couldn't answer the door, then she would have said so. Edit: saying that a woman can get a pass for being an ass as long as she blames her hormones is like saying a man can get a pass for being an ass by saying boys will be boys. Not the butthole. It's basic respect to come out and help unload and say thank you when people bring you stuff, especially if that stuff is food for your kids. Sorry for shouting. I'm glad you're willing and able to help, but it does sound as though it is starting to wear on you. Have you given them a date to have their situation more stable? I ask because a situation that could have been settled with a conversation has you threatening to cancel Christmas. You are already doing a lot for them, so the thought of any level of perceived disrespect is too much to bear, because you're bearing too much. You need limits and boundaries, for your sake and theirs. Do they need to get their crap together and go to a food bank? If the kids are so starved, then they shouldn't be in their care. Am I the butthole for demanding to be included on a family vacation though I am an adult? My mom is a difficult person sometimes. She will not talk about feelings or admit she has them, super sensitive to rejection. Oh, and her and my wife don't really like each other, so that's a fun bonus. Years ago when my mom was single, and for context she hates being single but doesn't click with people often, but it was still a huge insecurity, she took my then girlfriend and I on a trip. It was a really nice trip, but she seemed to expect us to do everything together the whole time and we wanted some couple time. When we got home, my girlfriend, now wife, mentioned that she wouldn't want to travel that long with my mom again because she expected too much of our time. That got back to my mom and obviously hurt her feelings. My mom said she would never travel with us again and took that very seriously. She is now remarried and my sisters are invited on ski trips all the time. We are never invited. She claims it's because it's his house and he doesn't like me, but I don't buy that. She wouldn't even hang out with us when we were both out of town for the same wedding. My sister claims we humiliated her and I don't understand. Well, I recently found out my mom and her husband are taking both of my sisters and their partners to Greece. I wrongly assumed I would be included. My mom's husband heard and said he wasn't sure, but I need to clarify with my mom as he doesn't think she wants me there. I talked to my mom and she said we aren't invited. She seriously never wants to travel with me or my jerk wife again. I blew up and screamed at her that she needs to grow the frick up. She shouldn't even have had children if she is this petty and immature. My mom said I'm an adult and not entitled to a free trip. I continued to yell at her and said she can't keep favoring my sisters if she wants a relationship, and she doesn't deserve money because she uses it as a weapon. She told me to go cry to my in-laws as they like to kiss my wife's ass, but she will never travel with us again and I should respect her decision. She called me manipulative and accused me of guilt-tripping her. When we got home, my girlfriend, now wife, mentioned that she wouldn't want to travel that long with my mom again because she expected too much of our time. That got back to my mom and obviously hurt her feelings. Info: how did it get back to your mom? You're the butthole and I'll tell you why. First, if your wife's complaint said to you got back around to your mom, then you must have told someone. Secondly, there are repercussions for the first action. Your mom and wife now don't want a vacation together. Third, if your mom enjoys the company of the other siblings, she has every right to go skiing with them. Fourth, as an adult you can pay for your own vacation. Why not rent a condo nearby and go skiing with your family on your own dime? You're the butthole. She paid for a vacation for the three of you, yet you and wife complained that she wanted to spend time with you? Have you never heard don't look a gift horse in the mouth? She told you she would no longer travel with you and is likely waiting for a lengthy apology. Oh, and telling your mother to grow up was childish. Most of us have never been on a real vacation. Your entire post is that your mom won't fund one for you? You grow up. Am I the butthole for laughing at my GF's grandmother? So I've been with my GF for 3 years now and this week her family were coming to visit her. They are from America while I'm from England and my GF came here for uni. While they were visiting, a group of my close friends came over. I grew up in a pretty diverse place in England and my friend group is also very diverse. Out of the 6 of us I'm the only white one. 3 of them are Asian, 23 Thai, female, 23 Indian, male, 21 Korean, 1 is Jamaican, 22 female, and 1 is mixed Caribbean, 23 female. When they arrived I immediately noticed her parents and grandparents whispering. I asked her if this was going to be an issue and she assured me that her family isn't like that and she was sure they were just talking. Well, they did make some uneducated assumptions, like asking if my Thai friend and my Korean friend were related and calling them Chinese. They look nothing alike. As well as being surprised that all of their English was so good. All of us except 1 were born and raised here, but my GF quickly sorted these out. I can't quite remember, but during a conversation her grandmother referred to my 2 black friends as African American. They told her that they weren't. She was confused and kept insisting that they were. My girlfriend wasn't saying anything, so I stepped in and said that no one here was African American. My girlfriend looked at me confused and pointed to my friends and said, but they are black, they are African American. I couldn't help it, I started laughing, so did my friends. This made my GF and her grandmother upset and asked what was so funny. I told her that they were not African American, because they were not American. Upon realizing the mistake, her parents and other members of her family laughed, but her grandmother still looked upset. This morning she approached me and told me that I was rude to her family and that I could have just left it. Basically saying that I called her family stupid. I didn't mean for it to come across that way, but I said it was the truth. She's now calling me the butthole. So am I the butthole? Not the butthole, they are racist white people. How have you not noticed this yet? They could be just uneducated, but her assuming that people from Thailand and Korea are all from the same country do seem slightly racist because you mention they look different and on top of that they assume they are related. This seems more than just being uneducated. Not the butthole. I think it's safe to say the biggest butthole here is the American education system. It was funny though, I chucked a bit reading this. Her family needs to relax a bit, it's not that deep. And I'm American. It's pretty ignorant to assume that all people of color are African American or all Asian people are Chinese. Out of curiosity, what party of the states are your GFS family from? Not the butthole, it's not your fault they are uneducated. ETA, they also are very racist. Signed, an African living in America that is also not African American. Am I the butthole for alienating my stepkids? So I have been with my partner Adam for 5 years. He has 3 kids: Marco, 16 male, Ash, 15 NB, and Finn, 13 male. I knew of his kids since before we started dating, but I didn't meet them until about 7 months into dating and was introduced as their dad's boyfriend after 1 year. After about another year I moved in with them. And about 3 months ago we moved into our current house. We are a close family, but the 3-bed house we lived in before just wasn't big enough. I'm also a professional interior designer. The kids went to stay with their mother for a few weeks, so I decided to start on their rooms, so while we were doing the rest of the house they had their own spaces. In our new house each kid gets their own room. Each room was customized to each kid's likes, and they had also each made a mood board of their dream rooms before. This along with IKEA dates had become our thing. So I knew about their design preferences. So I did their rooms. Marco's room was alternate with a gothic focus. We recreated the spiderweb window from Wednesday and a wall covered in posters and magazine clipping from a bunch of bands he likes that I sources. Ash's room was very different. They also had a big window to allow sunlight for their plants. They had an entire wall that was a floor-to-ceiling bookcase with a library ladder. The bed was a reading nook in the upper corner of the bookshelf wall. Finn's was a fantasy and gaming themed room, themed around Genshin Impact. The design was subtle. This included an accent wall which was a mural of some of the landscape from the game as well as other hidden details. Each room had a secret room in it as well, as that was something all of the kids wanted. Marco had a rotating platform like from classic Scooby-Doo shows. Ash of course had a hidden door in the bookshelf. And since Finn had the smaller room we sectioned off part of the attic, converted it and added a hatch into his room. We still tried to make it cool by having a button that caused a rope to be dropped down for him to climb. When the kids got back today, to say they were ecstatic would be an understatement. They loved their rooms and exploring all the little details. We did go shopping for some extra bits they wanted. There were a few ideas I had that I waited for their opinions, and it was all fun, or so I thought. I just got a call from their mother, and as soon as I answered she started yelling at me, saying that I was doing this specifically to target her and the kids so that they wouldn't want to stay with her and that I was alienating them. I barely got a word in before she told me that she will be talking to her lawyer about this and hanging up on me. In the moment I only wanted to do something special for the kids, but now I'm not sure if I've messed up and it making my anxiety go crazy. I've kinda just locked myself in our room. BC my partner would notice immediately that I'm not okay and I don't want to burden him. So am I the butthole? Not the butthole. You did nothing wrong. Keep doing what you're doing. Not the butthole. I'd love to hear the conversation she has with her lawyer. OP decorated my children's bedrooms exactly how they wanted. The horror. Duh. You've been a great stepdad, and honestly, rooms aren't going to alienate them from their mom. She's their mom. Only her crafty reactions to them being happy will do this. Am I the butthole for explaining what happens when I eat gluten? I, 17 male, am gluten-free, not a dietary choice, I have an allergy. My friend Jane, 18 female, held a sleepover a few days ago for her 18th birthday with some other friends. When planning, Jane said she wanted us to try her homemade pizza and homemade cake for dessert. I spoke to Jane later and told her I couldn't eat what she'd make due to my allergy, but I can bring my own food, as I know any free from food can be quite expensive, at least where I live it is. Jane said it was fine for me to bring alternative food and apologized for forgetting I was gluten-free. I ended up bringing a gluten-free pizza and cookies with me to the sleepover, and Jane put it with the rest. One of Jane's other friends that I don't know very well, Beth, saw and started going on about how it was rude to bring food when Jane went out of her way to make us a homemade meal. Even after us both explaining why, Beth said that it was still rude and I should have just sucked it up, as it wouldn't kill me to eat a small amount. She was right, it would have just made me violently ill. Jane made her drop it, but once it came time to eat, Beth started up again, and it got worse when she saw that I had brought cookies as well. Everyone else seemed more understanding as to why, but did agree I could have just sucked it up for one night. So I explained in great detail what happens if I had just sucked it up and asked if they would stay up with me the rest of the night while I dealt with the aftermath of eating it. It seemed to shut everyone up for the night, but it was extremely awkward for the rest of the night. The next day I started feeling bad for ruining the mood and apologized to Jane for spoiling her sleepover. She said it was the others' fault for being so ignorant, and she thought I handled the situation better than she would have, but I still feel bad. So am I the butthole? Edit. Just want to add, as I see some people using she/her for me, I am a boy. I was the only boy there due to a few things. 1. Me and Jane have been friends since we were kids. 2. I am trans. FTM. 3. I am gay. Not the butthole. First, you had the host's permission, so no one else had any room to say anything in the first place. Second, you explained without going into detail multiple times from the sounds of it. They are the ones that kept pushing the issue until you were left with little choice but to educate them or deal with their bullcrap the rest of the night. I say kudos to you for saving yourself the grief. Not the butthole. If you just offered up the info without provocation, then yes, that would have been an assholeo move. But considering Beth kept harping on you about it and was starting to get other girls at the sleepover to agree with her, it was time for some education on what sucking it up looks like for you. Also, I hate when people get fussy about food allergies and intolerances. It costs $0 to not be in butthole about other people's dietary needs. Am I the butthole for ordering fast food for my daughter, but not for my niece because of her allergies? Let's try and keep this short, though it probably won't be. I, female, 28, have a daughter, Hailey, who is almost 7. She is very close with her cousin, Lena, who is about a year older than her. Lena is my older sister's child. Lena has a handful of allergies, including milk and chicken, hazelnuts, peanuts and almonds. Plus, she has celiac disease. For those who are unaware, that's like an allergy to gluten. Because of this, I try my very best to accommodate my niece whenever she comes over. By accommodate I mean that I just make a gluten, dairy and nut and chicken-free meals for everyone present in the household at that moment. My daughter, unfortunately, hates whenever I do that. And most things included in her diet just so happen to have at least one of those ingredients. I've tried so hard to make food she'd like, but she's just too much of a picky eater. So when Lena came over for a sleepover last night, I had tried to make a dinner that meets her needs, but also something that Hailey is willing to eat. I made rice with broccoli and beef, sided with vegan mashed potatoes and a chocolate cake. All allergen-free. I thought this was a smart move, because Hailey likes broccoli and mashed potatoes, but she hated the version I made. I already had a headache, so while Lena was eating, I ordered McDonald's for Hailey. I thought I was in the clear, but my sister called me the next day saying that I'm a huge and that her daughter shouldn't have to eat a proper meal, while my daughter gets to have junk food. I defended myself, saying that my daughter's a picky eater, and I had a headache and that Lena seemed to enjoy the meal I made, so it was fine. She said that I could have gotten something for Lena, then I reminded her that her choices would be extremely limited. She then said that I'm a crafty hostess and that I won't be trusted with her daughter again. Am I the butthole? You're the butthole. Look, I get it. Picky eaters are hard work. But ordering junk food for one kid while the other just looks on is just mean. Your child wasn't in danger of starving, she played you. She could have eaten the mash and the broccoli, but instead whined until she got you to buy junk. You need to up your parents' game or she'll end up as one of those adults no one wants to invite anywhere because they're such a pain to eat with. Signed, the sister of an adult fussy eater. You accommodated her child, who has allergies and intolerances. She cannot eat most prepared foods. You accommodated your daughter. She likes prepared foods. The child with intolerances was unhappy because her difference was highlighted. Child with intolerances will have this experience many times in her life and it will continue to suck every time. Both children were fed. Not the butthole. I am going to say not the butthole. You cannot help that your niece has a limited diet because of her allergies. MCDs has milk/gluten in almost everything they offer. You were doing your best to feed the entire family. Could you have grabbed an extra Happy Meal toy for your niece? Am I the butthole for refusing to give my dad money before his wedding? Full disclosure, my 22 female, mom, 41 female, had a one-night stand with my biological father, 50 male, at a super wild party. My mom never attempted to contact her sperm donor and instead raised me herself. Only last year did I track my dad down using ancestry DNA. So, I'm trying to view his life decisions as objectively as possible. I met my dad for the first time ever last year. It did not go well. I also discovered that his personal life is kind of a mess. He is divorced from his first wife, 48 female, with whom he has 3 children, 2 of whom he is paying child support for. He also squandered his ex-wife's inheritance while having affairs. Last week, my dad called again. He told me that he is getting remarried to a 25-year-old Asian woman that he impregnated. Her parents are demanding proof that he can provide for her, but he's flat broke and owes $15,000 in child support/alimony. My dad asks if he can borrow a few $1,000s to save his face until the wedding, his words. I say I'd love to help, but I'm barely solvent. I owe $100,000 in student loans, I earn barely $40,000 per year due to my useless liberal arts degree, his words, my rent is being jacked up, I need to help pay my mom's medical bills, etc. But actually, I have $0 in student loans because I attended college on a scholarship and work to pay off the rest. I earn 6 figures a year as a freelance copywriter and author. I just bought the condo I'm living in, and my mom is perfectly healthy. My dad's ex-wife once told me that I'm more his child than any of his legitimate children. That is, I'm a complete a-hole who doesn't give a DMN about anyone, besides my mom. Agree or disagree? Wunpa. So. Not. Give. That. Man. Money. You will probably be sparing the poor woman he's trying to marry from an awful life too. If he continues to ask, come up with increasingly more complex and/or outrageous reasons. Your goldfish needs life support, you're saving to buy part of a Caribbean island as a timeshare, you have an undescended ovary that requires surgery, Or your car's glow spark needs replaced, or your mom's toes fell off and you need to get her replacement toes before sandal season. Not the butthole. Your bio dad and his ex-wife are both buttholes, though. Not the butthole, ha 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 ha, I was so worried about you until the big reveal, but damn, I'm proud of you. Definitely maybe tell his fiancée what's up, he's most likely lying to her in some fashion. Be merry and don't give him a dime. Not the butthole, the likelihood of you ever getting any of that money back is slim to none. You do not owe him anything in life just because he mixed a batch with your mom one night 22 years and 9-ish months ago. If he ever finds out you lied, oh well. What kind of person asks their kid they have known for 1 year for that kind of money? Honestly, I'm surprised you haven't considered explaining to his future wife and in-laws what an absolute stud he is in the kids and ex-spouse department as well as financials. You not having an interest in his family or anyone but those you care about isn't a case of the apple not falling far from the tree but a simple fact of them being family by blood and nothing more. Enjoy your well-earned department-free success.